Morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Glad you guys all made it through another week of quarantine. I will tell you that I was keeping track, but I have definitely lost count of the days at this point. But what I have not lost count of is our data privacy, which is the important part that we're talking about. It was really a good week. It was a great week to look at New York State privacy legislation. Was really honored to have Senator Kevin Thomas, who is sponsoring New York State privacy legislation, do an interview with him. I really appreciate you guys watching and listening to that. And so just wanted to do a bit of a wrap up today and give you something to think about throughout the weekend. So there's always this conversation between state versus federal legislation. And I think that really you kind of have to take both paths. You have to parallel path this a little bit, right? Because federal legislation is going to take a long time. I mean, we've covered this in the past. The last time that we had full sweeping broad privacy legislation was 1974 with ARPANET. We do have a few bill proposals that have come through. I'm a big fan of this Data Protection Agency by Kirsten Gillibrand, proposed by her. I think the idea of that is wonderful. At the same time, we can't just wait and hope that federal legislation is going to be the thing that saves us, right? So I think that it merits taking both approaches. And again, this is hotly debated, right? But we have all these states that are passing wonderful legislation as well. We have the California Consumer Protection Act. Nevada has passed some laws around data privacy. We have, of course, what we've been discussing this week, the New York State Privacy Legislation Act, which introduced the concept of a data fiduciary. And I think, again, you have to look and see what makes sense in the short term and the long term. And parallel pathing this seems to make sense right now. So, for today, what I to think about over the weekend, you get a few minutes free, is think about how is it going to affect you as a consumer? How is it going to affect your business? Why does it matter so much more right now? Well, we know it matters so much more right now, and we're going to get back into this next week as well. It matters so much more right now because we are in this unprecedented time of trying to track a virus that it's a deadly virus. It does kill people. People do survive from it, of course, as well. But we're trying to track and see who has COVID and who doesn't. And a lot of this is stepping and infringing on what little data privacy we have right now already. And because we don't have guideposts to come back to, we don't have federal mandated privacy legislation, we don't have a really thorough encompassing privacy legislation act in this country. The more that we push against this privacy, the privacy principles, the more that we find we don't know where to come back to, right? We might want to ease them for right now because it makes sense, but where do we come back to then after this? And so we don't have those guideposts in place, which to me, it's concerning. So we're going to come back to that next week. Got some great articles to share for you already, and I see more and more are going to be written. But for you, what I'm posting today is I am posting a link that gives a very thorough rundown. It was created in January of 2020, this year. It gives a very thorough rundown of where each state is in their privacy legislation, what is passed, what is not passed, where it sits. And I would encourage you that for each of your states, because I know we're all not in New York State, right? Even I'm in Jersey. That I would encourage all of you to look at this list, figure out where does your privacy legislation in your state sit right now. And if this is important to you, reach out to your legislators. We heard from Senator Thomas, who is just absolutely wonderful, that he wants to hear from you. So he said, call, send emails, send socially distant postcards. There are a number of ways that you can reach out, and really it only takes a few minutes. It only takes a few minutes to pick up the phone. It takes a few minutes to send an email. And even if you have to leave a message, they're going to listen to it, right? They'll listen to it. If you send an email, they're going to read it. They do care because they want to know that you care. So if you care and you're struggling with what to do with your privacy, I'm concerned about this. I am concerned about my data privacy in this time. then you have outlets, you have recourse, you have ways that you can reach out. And I'd encourage each of you to take a few minutes this weekend, reach out to your state senators and say, hey, I'm concerned about this, especially right now. They'll read them, they'll listen, and it really is the voice of the people, right? So I hope all of you have just an amazing Friday. Check out the link that I shared. It's pretty thorough, has all of the states in it that are currently and what progress they're making on any kind of data privacy legislation. And as always, if you have questions, if you have thoughts, please leave them. I am more than happy to answer questions myself. And then, you know, if you have thoughts about what else you'd like to hear, then I will address these in future videos. So happy Friday, everybody. Have an amazing weekend.